So when I heard the doctor say it's prostate cancer, my world just stopped. And I realized that I had gone from one side, which is you're living a normal life, to now all of a sudden I'm in a club I never wanted to be a member of. My story, so I grew up right outside New York City in suburban New Jersey. And, I was an athlete. I was an editor of my school paper. And then when it came time to go to college, I decided I wanted to go to school in California. And yeah, I think after, how many years now, 40 plus years of being in media, I consider myself, and I say this with humility, a master storyteller. I'm still working at my craft. Well, just what led to that thing in January is, I went to a regular checkup. And you get that dreaded digital exam. The old, no, you don't get flowers and candy with that either. And the doctor said he felt something. So I didn't know what to think. Didn't think it was good, but I didn't think it was terrible. So he sent me to a urologist. He said, yeah, I feel something there. Let's do a biopsy. So now I started to worry a little bit. Biopsies are not fun. They're very invasive. They go in through your urethra, and they're taking samples. So you hear this snap, snap, snap. And afterwards, I was sore. And then I'm going to guess a week or two later, probably a week, I was in my car after working out. It was raining. And I get a phone call from the urologist, and he says, you have prostate cancer. And that's the minute your life switches from whatever it was to now it's different. When I heard the doctor say it's prostate cancer, my world just stopped. And I realized that I had gone from one side, which is you're living a normal life, to now all of a sudden I'm in a club I never wanted to be a member of. I was in shock. Here I was 63 years old, super healthy, ate relatively well. I have a chocolate sort of, I got a sweet tooth there. But I didn't have a lot of the high risk factors. Wasn't a lot of, I didn't know at the time there wasn't a lot of cancer in my family. Later on, I found out 2 of my uncles had prostate cancer. But it was, as I wrote, it was like a kick in the balls, no pun intended. So I was stunned. The thing I heard first was, it's a good cancer. And I would never put those 2 words together. Because the reason they call it a good cancer is because it's very treatable if it's caught early. Not necessarily cured, but very treatable. So, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm one of the lucky ones. I got prostate cancer. The word cancer is what you hear. So I found that it gets very matter of fact with doctors. They're compassionate, but their job is to tell you the facts and the statistics. So I figured, for now, I'm going to keep this to myself. Because my Gleason score was 4.3, and that's a whole thing in itself. You start learning, you get all these numbers. Gleason scores, the quadrants of your prostate capsule, different kinds of reports, genomic tests. It's overwhelming. So there's low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And I fell right on the cusp of intermediate, but I was on the wrong side of it. 3-4 and below is considered good candidates for active surveillance, where you're just watching your Psa levels. So that made it a little challenging too, because I wasn't high risk, I was on the cusp. And there's always a part of you that says, well, if I don't have to do it, I don't have to do it. That's great, I'll just watch it. But I didn't necessarily feel like that. And then they told me the genomic tests showed that it was aggressive. So that put me in another category. But I had a PSMA scan, the highly sophisticated PET scans. And, they shoot you with radioactive isotopes and then iodine, and you go into the machine, with the klaxon, and they couldn't find anything. So in some ways that was encouraging, because it meant things were small and they hadn't moved into my organs or lungs or bones. And the other way, it was like, well, if you don't know where it is, how are we going to treat it? So, I had one of the top surgeons in the country. So I was confident that I was in good hands. But you have to make a decision early on. Are you going to do radiation or are you going to do surgery? And the catch-22 is, if you choose radiation, you really can't do surgery later on. If you choose surgery, you can do radiation later on. Although again, I didn't know that a third of the men will need radiation later on. So here am I in this sort of limbo state of, we can't find it. You're right on the risk of intermediate to low, but you're on the wrong side of it. It is aggressive. So being me, I wanted more opinions. I didn't just want a second opinion. I want a third opinion. I went to all kinds of holistic healers. I saw sound energy therapists, sound therapy, acupuncturists, energy healers, taking all kinds of CBD supplements, because I wanted one of those to replace the possibility of surgery or radiation. And they're all different. Some of them very pleasant. Some of them I could tell didn't have any effect. But I ended back with your PSA is slowly going up. And mine was low when we look at the MyChart things. I was in the 1 something, maybe 2, but it was going up. So yeah, it was a real quandary because I wanted to make sure we knew where it was. The doctors kept saying, we think it's confined to the capsule based on what your Gleason score is and your PSA levels, but they couldn't guarantee it. So after almost, how many months was it? So I found out in January. I had the surgery, but I was basically tortured during that time by not wanting to make the wrong decision. I was definitely somewhat obsessed with thinking about it. It was always in the back of my mind. It's hard to avoid that when you have cancer. I think I told our children maybe a month or 2 after I found out. I didn't really want to worry them. I knew as I was approaching surgery that I needed to tell them what was going on. When you hear you have cancer, the fear, and for prostate cancer for men, a lot of it is more fear because it's like a sexually related thing. You're talking about your internal plumbing, and the unknown side effects, which can be incontinence or sexual dysfunction. So you don't really want to talk about those things. And you also think about dying. Just because they told me it was a good cancer compared to others, I heard the word cancer. I heard aggressive cancer. So yeah, it was a time where I felt I didn't want to put that burden of fear on other people. If I couldn't project overwhelming confidence, oh, we got this, I got this, we're going to get it. I didn't want to, share other than with Wendy, and only with Wendy to a certain extent, how scared I was. I think I said that with cancer, all the bracelets say cancer strong or this strong or that strong. And, I think for men, we don't like to be weak. And we don't like to be, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I know, for example, I like to be in control as much as possible. I also grew up in a household where there was a lot of chaos, a lot of emotional chaos. So I'm sure that made me even more a person who wanted to have control. And suddenly I was thrust into this situation where I felt like I had no control. And so I did share it once I knew I was having surgery. And, after surgery, they said to me, I remember coming out, you go in and you're anesthetized, and that this robot is being controlled by a surgeon. So when I came out, I remember him saying, because one of the big concerns is nerve sparing, because there are all these delicate nerves around the prostate. I remember coming out, being very groggy, and the surgeon saying, I was able to spare your nerves, and I didn't see anything outside the capsule. So I felt like, okay, that's good. But I was also wounded to the core, literally.